This episode will give you one concept that explains why most people will live in regret, and I really hope you understand it so you get to avoid to live in that same regret. So it's about the fact that when people are trying to act on their goals, they are trying to act on their dreams, they do the massive action, they do the complex stuff, but they forget one thing, or they ignore one thing. It's this whole idea that the simple and the small things, those tiny details, are just as important as the big things. So this is the episode 19 of me analyzing the book The Diary of a CEO, and he calls it Law 19. You must sweat the small stuff. Now, in life, the best entrepreneurs understand this, that there are three kinds of entrepreneurship. There are three levels of entrepreneurship. No, there are three kinds of people when it comes to greatness and everything. The first group are people who really don't do anything. They're just there. The second group are the people who take the massive actions towards their goals, towards their dreams. The third people are the people who focus on the massive action and yet the small stuff. They are the greatest of the great. There's a reason for that. They never ever ignore the small stuff. So what makes the small stuff very, very funny is that the small stuff are easy to do, but guess what? They are easier to not do. What makes it worse is the consequences for not doing them are not obvious in the short term. Instead, the consequences are compounding. They are increasing in the long term. So for example, now is brushing your teeth. Well, I'm picking different aspects now. Brushing your teeth. If you don't brush for 1 day, nobody would know. If you don't brush for 3 days, some people wouldn't know. If you don't brush for 2 months, people will begin to avoid close contact with you. If you do not brush for 6 months, you are going to notice some form of change in colors of your gum and your teeth. If you do not brush for 5 years, you're probably going to have cavities and you're going to be with your dentist very soon. So how else? Something I see in people's health and fitness. They assume that going to the gym is enough of a good habit to say, okay, fine, I am now healthy. But in reality, health is more than that. Health is way, way more than that. So if you're going to the gym and you're not taking care of your diet, because your diet it's easy to avoid healthy diets. It is easier to go for supplements. Okay, you know what? I'm not hitting my protein goals. Let me use supplements. Supplements were supposed to supplement your diet, not to be the main diet itself. So now, because you sweat the small stuff, now all of a sudden you wake up one day, you discover that you have some funny illness. What happens? You're deficient in some aspects. And to be very frank, a lot of the supplements coming out today are actually not as healthy as they preach. And by the way, some of them even feel like you have to even overdose on the supplement for you to get results. What does that tell you? That you should focus on fixing your diet. Now, not sleeping well for what? For a day or two wouldn't tell. I mean, you can sacrifice a couple of sleep here, sleep there, depending on your project. But not sleeping well for 30 years will tell in your health. Basically, and the irony is that the medical industry of today is not designed to tell people what the real problem is, the root problem. It's designed to milk as much money from them as possible. So don't worry, let's treat the symptoms, not the causes. Literally, when you look at people who have things like Alzheimer's, funny illnesses, it all boils down to those little things they did every day. So look at it. When people sit down, and I still belong to this in some areas though. I used to sit down for like hours non-stop on my desk until I realized that at some point my knees were only telling me that, okay bro, something is not right somewhere. My back was telling me until I had to get a rising desk. So it happens to everybody. So because we are trying to focus on the things that really, really matter, the big stuff. But the small stuff are just as important. Speaking of the small stuff, one of the best companies of all times is Apple. Apple was taken to a very great height by Steve Jobs. That's because Steve Jobs was the king of the small stuff. Steve Jobs brought he adopted so many Japanese ideas, and one of them that I think I really like in this context is Kaizen. When everybody is trying to improve massively, Kaizen teaches this practice incrementally, right? Slowly, because when you're moving slowly and steadily, no matter what, you will get there. And because life is not a race, you're not racing with anybody, you will definitely get there. And Steve Bartlett, I think I've derailed from this book, but Stephen Bartlett brings up, I think, this idea of companies. When companies are rewarding and they're giving bonuses only to employees who act in a certain way, so they are rewarding behaviors. And those behaviors are optimized for short-term results. But in the long term, those companies often die out. We see this thing over and over again till today. Companies want to get the best employees. They begin to put out massive rewards. But at some point, that is not a long-term solution. Because that idea is going to die out. Why? Because they are only there for the money. At some point, you can't pay them forever. They move on to somewhere else. The best talent moves elsewhere, and before you know it, the company becomes a company that's optimized for just short-term reasons. Before you know it, someone that comes with true care, true passion, true vision comes to overtake the company. And whether I like it or not, if you zoom out and look at those companies who overtake their competition slowly, right, you understand that they always have this mindset of steady improvement. Whether it's Nvidia, for this, I think I'll recommend a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, where he basically, and his partner, analyzed companies and information for over 3 decades, just to figure out why are companies this successful. And then there were multiple answers there, but one thing that stood with me was the fact that the companies that were very successful and the companies who focused on the culture. Speaking of focusing on culture, in business, there are 3 levels to, I would say, business, right? The first level, in terms of the business journey, the first level is the product level, right? Where you're creating a product that people want. The second second phase is the distribution, right? So you have a product, you have to distribute the product, you have to sell it. But at some point, because you want to keep growing the company, the company has to evolve, and you have to focus on the culture itself, because the culture is what takes the company forward. And the culture of focusing on the little things is what got Apple to where it is today, sweating the small stuff. When Steve Jobs actually sweat the fact that he wanted a particular shape of screwdrivers to be able to open up any iPhone device. He did not want the average screwdriver opening up the device. That is how much attention that he paid to details. Right? So you can see that for the companies to have this idea, to have this long-term culture, they had to make sure that the people have that same mindset, they have the same culture. So imagine going to meet every individual and try to make the individual align with the company's vision. Right? They're not rewarding that behavior. It's a way of saying, this is where we are going to in life. And we want only these people who believe what we believe. And that is the exact same thing that Steve Jobs did. If you're in business and you've not read the Steve Jobs biography, I feel like you are losing out on a lot. I mean, there are other people quite alright, but Steve Jobs nailed it over and over again. Right? In almost every product that came out when he was alive, there was even a time when they were creating these computers that had transparent back, and they were about to use a particular material, and Steve Jobs said no, because it feels cheap, does not feel like it's what's going to be a very good product. And guess what? He said that his dad told him that if you're going to make an expensive wardrobe, you don't put cheap wood at the back because the customer wouldn't see it. You have to put the best wood. And it's that mindset that got Apple to where it was about 2 decades after. He's passed on 10 decades ago, but still, Apple right now is somewhere around the top 3 companies, right? Although I think at the moment, Nvidia has taken them, at the point of making this video, has taken over. That's because the Nvidia CEO too has the same mindset, the small stuff. And if you zoom out, right, because it's called zooming out, you get to realize that the big stuff we see is just the small stuff all combined. The video that you watch, right, is a combination of maybe music, it's a combination of the script, it's a combination of the ideas, it's a combination of the words, of the thumbnail and everything. While you see people who focus on the ideas in the video, but we completely ignore other things like the light setup, the audio. Also, I'm not here to, there's some little nuances here, but you get the point. So, I really hope I've maybe convinced you in this video to know that the small stuff actually do matter as much as the big stuff. The small stuff, right? The consequences for not doing them are discovered in the long term. But the big stuff, the consequences are discovered in the short term. The small stuff, they lead to the most massive regrets, like in terms of your health. And I'll leave you with this saying that a tree falls in the direction that is leaning towards. It's the same thing I just explained here, that the tree doesn't just fall, it has been falling, it has been leaning there for a period, and all of a sudden it fell to that direction. So in this video, I really hope that I've been able to convince you to sweat the small stuff as much as the big stuff. And then if you really if you like the idea, I would really like for you to go and get this book, because there's really nothing I can say that I can really spell out everything in this book, except I read the book word for word, and I don't think that would be worth my time. I just felt like going out and explaining this book to you. If you feel like you like the idea, please go out and get this book. And if you can't get this book, at least subscribe to Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The Diary of a CEO. It's the exact same name. He's a great guy. He brings on great guests, and his guests are actively. He has a way of selecting the best guests, basically. So, also one last thing: share this video with somebody who you know will find it helpful. That selfless act of sharing this video further proves that what I'm doing is helping you. What I'm doing is giving you an idea, giving you a perspective that would work in your favor. And it's also a way of you telling me thank you. So thank you very much if you made it this far. But I know I stumbled a lot in this video, but if you made it this far, I'll tell you that you are a real G, and you're somebody who is actively trying to make his life better. So thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.